Love Goddess. How are you? How are you? I am so excited to see you today, to be speaking with you today, and to be recording this new podcast live today. In the previous subject, we have touched we have talked about the fantasy and desire and how being separate really creates that tension, that desire for another person. However, there is something that I want to touch on in this particular aspect. It's really important to not confuse it, the I care message with the I don't care message, right? So, in the beginning of the relationship, when we really want and crave that intimacy, we want to know everything about that person. We want to establish that connection. We have the chemistry and like everything's going, like we want to like absorb that person. We want to be like fully infatuated and like because the feelings that that other person is producing for us are these beautiful butterflies, and you are in this new state that you like, you are elevated, you feel important, you feel loved, you feel that somebody is really appreciating you and seeing you, right? In the beginning of the relationship, the dynamic of like pulling together comes to play. Like we want to almost be absorbed into that person and like interconnect. um and I'm talking about like a long-term relationship. I'm talking about the real connection. I'm talking about when the two people are not afraid to like be vulnerable and like step into that and take responsibility for that, right? Then we know what happens next. Usually we like, okay, if you are the traditional path, you get married, you have kids, and that spark, and now more than ever, couples get this rut feeling probably about like 6 months into a relationship, and some might take longer, a year, 2 years or so, right? You get into this rut of a relationship when you're like, the sex life is non-existent, you're like have no desire, you know everything about that person, there is nothing else to discover, you take it for granted, you like it's just like that desire is gone, and where did it go, right? And lots of couples go into therapy now, at a much earlier stage than in the past. Well, in the past, in fact, I'm following one of the most amazing sex therapists, and she's famous sex therapist. Her name is Esther Perel, and she talks how in the past, having the spark and the passion in the marriage was not even possible in the past, right? And that spark in marriage only came from infidelity, from external relationship that we had outside of marriage. So in the past, the spark was not even the part of marriage itself, right? Now, I don't know who influenced and what changed and where it came from. Now we expect it all and want it all within the establishment of a marriage. We want the spark, we want sex, we want passion, and we want kids and all of that. And it is contradicting. It is contradicting to each other. It is contradicting. That's why we struggle with how to maintain both of them within the same relationship. It is kind of like it is possible theoretically, but it's very challenging to really implement, right? And in the past, it's never even been the case to begin with. So just know that now you are living in a good place anyway, and a good time. So a lot of things are possible for you now, and mentality has shifted about the marriage and relationship, and having all of that within the same relationship, right? However, in order to create that from the beginning, right in the beginning, when we are connected to each other, when we are infatuated and we are wanting to get closer and create our lives together and move in together and sleep in the same bed together and do things together and become best friends together and go travel together and eat dinners together and like do all of these things together, that relationship starts suffocating because it gets boring. It gets boring, and you've like explored everything you possibly could explore together, and you don't find fulfillment anymore. We human beings, we need to grow, we need to develop, we need to continue our journey, right? And that is why a lot of times, like, this is the time when the relationship either splits and each goes each other way and no longer has um it's really a mindset, like, of a person within the relationship. Are they ready to like make it work with you, or are they like completely done, right? And same thing for you. Are you ready to work with him, or are you done and you just want the next new thing, that's the next new shiny object, whatever that is, right? So like, really, and are you ready to work together? Because if you work together, there could be solutions that you can find um in order to bring those elements back. However, the path to that will require further separation, right? When you're so absorbed into each other and you literally cannot explore more, it will require for you to stand apart and become two different separate persons in order for you to continue and create the space and the polarity for the passion to happen, right? And when you and that is what I was talking to you about one the other day. I was talking to you about creating that fantasy. Fantasy implies that you don't have something. Fantasy brings the desire. Desire only happens when it implies that you don't have that. Desire only happens when you are apart. Desire only happens when you don't have sex. If you have plenty of sex, it's boring, right? Like, simply because there is too much of it already. It's available. There's no need to fight for it, go for it, seek it, right? Like, or it's the same sex over and over and over again, right? That is why when I travel, and I travel by myself, like, guess when the passion is at its highest is when I am away from home. Because when I'm home, it's like, right? Like, but when I'm away, or when there's a danger of some sort, or like I'm flirting with someone else, like, that sparks a little bit of that insecurity element to it, and the desire goes back, like a desire grows again, right? So the desire implies that you don't have something, or you are at a risk of losing it, right? But it only works, and this is exactly what I want to talk to you about today. It only works when the two of you are really wanting to make it work, right? Because if you disconnect and you're like, I'm going to go my way, or if you're trying to separate yourself but he doesn't care, same thing falls on him and he's trying to rebuild the relationship but you don't care, it's not gonna work. Being more separate without the desire of coming together will not work. It will only create more separation. That's the key difference that I want to specify today in this particular podcast audio and live video recording, is that when the two of you are not in it together, you're gonna only drift more apart. If you don't have the common goal of creating more desire, and really, it is one of those elements where you're like, you know what? Like, yes, I'm separate. Yes, I am, coming across other people, and I'm flirting with other people, and like, I have a choice. Both of you have a choice. I have a choice to choose that person or not, but I'm choosing you, right? I'm choosing you because I want to. I want to have you in my life. But if you're creating more separation and the other person or you don't want to choose each other, it's done, 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 out. Like, why suffer? Right? So that is the key difference here. That is the key. That with all that danger, with all that separateness, with all your separation and actual physical distance, you still choose each other. And that is what sparks that desire. You still choose each other. You still choose each other. And that is very comforting for the ego and for your love. Environment, right? Like the energy that you're creating, the dynamic you are creating within a couple, right? I care versus I don't care in relationship. Um, this is something that, and that's the name, the tagline that I've created for this. It's do you care to choose another person? Do you still care for choosing that other person, or is it time to move on and split? This is the decision that we can make, right? You always have this decision. It's like waking up every morning and making that choice. What choice are you going to make? What choice are you going to make? In the beginning of the relationship, like, there is so much uncertainty. That's why the beginning of the relationship is the juiciest part, because there is so much uncertainty, right? There is, and yes, it is a roller coaster up and down, and like, what is he feeling? Is he really into me, or he's not into me? But like, yet there is that emotional scale, and you like, it really helps you, like, it just feels good. That's what gives you butterflies, like, oh my god, he's like into me, or and like, you have all the feels, you have the feelings that creates your emotions, that creates your feelings. You might come across a person who is who might be showing double sides, right? Every time, like, I'm in that space, like, if I, I'm like, nope, I'm done. I'm done, right? Like, I'm not reading the signs. Like, I'm just gonna choose. I'm gonna decide that you are not into me, and we're gonna be done, because I'm not riding through that roller coaster of emotions. One day I'm like thinking, is he into me? And another day, like, he's not, right? Like, if actions is what you're looking for. Actions is what you're looking for. If he's not messaging you, if he's like deleted his Instagram, and all of a sudden, because he's too busy, if he's like not following up with you, like, and yet, when you're together, you have like wonderful time, and you keep guessing what's going on. Like, he makes me think that I'm special, and then another day he's not acting up on it. That's your red flag. That's your signs that he's not into you and he doesn't care. And whether it's his own insecurities or his own block, like, just get out. It's not worth that, right? So how do you read? And that's the beginning of the relationship. And in marriage itself, also, like, watch out for those red flags. How's he showing up in your marriage? Is he treating you special, or is it like, that's it, it's gone? Like, what, like, do you feel loved? Why are you in this relationship in the first place? Like, I want to keep bringing home to you that you have a choice to walk away in marriage too. You don't suffocate yourself, don't suffer. You have a choice to walk away. And by that example, and a lot of women would come to me and say, oh, but I have, kids and, build life together, and going through divorce is a nightmare and all of that. Yes, yes, and yes. But by doing that, you're going to fight for your happiness. You're going to show your kids an example of what a woman who fights for her happiness looks like, and they're gonna one day understand, and they're not gonna follow your example, because if you stick through it and put your happiness last, your kids gonna do that in the same situation when it comes to their turn. Do you really want to give that example to them? No, you don't. You don't. Fight for your happiness. It's important. It's very important. You are important. You are worthy. Just look at the signs. Don't, like, if there are red flags in a relationship, just don't settle. Don't settle. Don't settle ever. Like, it's either 100% or nothing, right? Like 100, you are either all in or nothing. Nothing, right? So that and that is when all of your, like, yes, you'll be like, you 100% into each other, you are still choosing each other every single day. That is the relationship that I want for you, right? You're still choosing each other every single day, right? And you're still treating yourself important. You still go on dates, and you still have these wonderful, and you create novelty in the relationship, and you try new toys and new positions and whatnot. Like, you still innovate, and you create the new levels, to new dimensions and new depths to that relationship together. It's like building a house, but in a fun way. Like, you don't have to suffer through building a house. Like, it's like a fun process, right? But if you feel that the red flags are there and the I don't care is happening, don't settle. Don't settle. You don't need to settle for that, right? Like, just sometimes you have to make a tough choice and a tough call and walk away. Sometimes we have to do that, right? And because not only you're not gonna feel appreciated, it's gonna reflect in the entire life everywhere you go, and you don't want that. You want your life to be 100% in, full on. Love goddess never settles, and since we are all love goddesses here, I want for you to really feel into your own relationship and call in someone who is treating you right, someone who, when you're with them, you are feeling worthy and loved and taken care of, and you are having fun, and both of you are innovating. That is the kind of relationship that you really, really want to go for. And with that, my beautiful queen, ask yourself a question. Are you settling, or is it time to move on?